try and point at and blame the weaknesses or the other energies that are riding through people. It helps as well, because really whatever we put our focus on, we are likely to draw out. If you focus on the worst aspects in another person, you draw them to the surface. At times that can be useful if it's accompanied by deep compassion, deep unconditional love, and it's there to help somebody see an aspect of themselves. But just doing stuff out of reactance, like attacking another person, even our thoughts matter. It really does. The thoughts that we send out about other people matters. And there's been so much programming done to us to make us all turn against each other, to make us point at other people's belief systems as being wrong and stuff. But we don't understand, while all this infighting amongst humans, there are other energies that are exploiting this and have known how to exploit it and created it in the first place, that created those splits. It's not natural for us to have those splits. As children, before we are conditioned by our parents' attitudes, we are open and in awe of this beautiful planet we're living on, and we're curious about the differences in other people. You know, if we're white and that person has brown skin, it's like, oh wow, you know, that's cool, you know, your skin's that colour and my skin's this colour, and it's not loaded with all the bullshit that we get conditioned into. As children, we don't do that. We learn discrimination, we learn prejudice from our parents, who learnt it from their parents or from their peers or from the media or from the newspapers, who love this shit as well. You know, we learn to have issues with each other that we wouldn't naturally have. We are the human species. We are all one species. There are other species and beings and energies out there who are not human, who are doing this to humans. It is time for humans to stand together, to support each other, to bring the love back into the human group instead of all the infighting. We see this in so many ways. You know, this has been echoed in our earthly reality in so many ways. We play out the patterns. You know, it happened like in the Native American culture, the different tribes used to war against each other, but then like a bigger foe came along, like in the white people, the Europeans coming into their land, you know. And we have got a similar thing that is happening on Earth. It's levels, and I'm not saying that we should be fighting against these other energies, because that doesn't work. Like, fighting doesn't work, conflict doesn't work. It really doesn't. It doesn't work at the human level, it doesn't work within the human factions. It's no good. We need to find the commonality. We need to look for the things that we all share. We all know what it feels like to feel fear, to feel insecurity, to feel grief. I mean, grief's a biggie. You know, we know what it feels like to feel human feelings, and that is our commonality, and we need to stop fighting with each other and encourage the best in each other. The more we can focus on the truth and the love that is in every other human being, no matter what they are manifesting from other energies, the more we can focus on the truth of them, we strengthen that part. For a lot of people, due to trauma, the truth of them can be a very afraid child. You know, a lot of people have been badly traumatized and wounded when they were very young. and that part of them can be ruling the show in different ways and usually needs some kind of help. It's also remembering, as well as being human, that we are much more than that. We came here as souls to experience this time on earth. We didn't choose to come here by accident. We chose to come here at a big transition time on this planet. I think there's a lot more going on than that, but I'm not tapping into that. That's not where I'm working really at the moment. But we are much, much more than we have been led to believe, that we have been conditioned to believe, and we have been traumatized to accept. And my main message with this video is that we need to be uniting, we need to be helping each other. When people do stuff to us that isn't helpful, the quicker we can forgive them and move on from that, the better, because it isn't the human that does these things to us. The human's feelings are often used, so that is why it is important to work through our own stuff, that it's important to work through our hurt and have compassion for ourselves, to understand that it is alright for us to have all the feelings that we do have. Like, trying to disown or pretend that feelings aren't there isn't helpful, because there is usually a seed of a particular emotion for other energies to be able to use it. So for your anger to be used, there has to be a bit of that feeling there, and that's alright. You know, we are meant to have that feeling. It's part of being human. But in my experience, when we go too deeply into that, when we buy into like the so-called negative emotions, it opens the pathway for other energies that ride on that vibration to channel through us. So if we have anger, it's important to acknowledge it, and that it's alright that that anger is there, and that anger's there for a reason, usually boundary violations. We've been hurt, we've been treated in a wrong way. It's a sign that there's something that needs to be done. You know, maybe we do need to set better boundaries. Maybe we do need to be able to say to somebody, I really wasn't happy with that. But becoming anger, becoming resentment, becoming hate is not a way to do it, unless you're wanting the experience of channeling lots of deep dark crap, really. And if you do channel that, it tends to create a lot more trauma and rubbish in a world that is already saturated with it. So I feel our personal responsibility is in clearing our own stuff, realising that we are being manipulated in many, many ways. There is so much, there's so many ways. This video will go on for 3 hours if I go into that, so I'm not going to, for your sake as well as mine. Bringing things back to our truth. We've got to bring things back to our truth. With most situations and feelings that we come across in life, there are usually decisions. One way can feel lighter, it can feel more expansive, it can feel like it opens up possibilities, it can feel physically lighter inside. Those things are usually signs of things that it's helpful for us to do. You know, other decisions, you know, like we can get that feeling of oh, I really, really fancy a beer, I fancy just going out and getting wasted or something. But if you go past that initial feeling, that craving, and go further down that route, you'll be able to feel out what that is going to then make you feel, and that vibration tends to be heavy. You know, you might have the buzz of the high from whatever drug, drink, food, shopping trip, gambling, whatever else it is that tends to hook you, you'll feel like the buzz of what that bit will feel like. But then if you feel further down that path, you will feel the crash, the lower energy that is tied to that, how it will make you feel afterwards. And it is helpful at times not to take that route. You know, sometimes we will take it because we want to experience that, we want to learn, we want to be able to make better choices for ourselves. But usually inside us we know where a path is going to lead, whether it's going to lead to something that's good, uplifting, or whether it's going to lead to something that's going to make us feel like crap for a while and make us snappy with our family or whatever else. We have choices all the time, and the choices do make a difference. And it is helpful, again, as I've said, there are other energies that are riding on us all the time. There are energies that create addictions. We all have energies that are trying to feed through us in whatever way. Some of them feed on our emotional energies. Some of them feed on the things that they can make us ingest in whatever way. You know, I genuinely believe that most people who have addictions will have energies riding on them that are feeding off those addictions. In this life, there tends, I know I've said about simplicity, and we can take it down to simplicity, but often it's not that bloody simple. But there are the elements of things that we need to heal, and there is realising that there is a lot of manipulation that is wanting to keep us in patterns, keep us in trauma, keep us in resentment, keep us stoked with bitterness or vengeance towards somebody. The controlling energies wish to keep us in those loops. It's like consciousness traps, and trauma is used very heavily in that, and general day-to-day gripes with people and the media is massively used with that kind of thing. So we have our own personal work to do so that we can't be used so much, but it's also realising our truth. You know, there's only like certain aspects of us that are the screwed up human trauma bunnies here. You know, it isn't all of us, it isn't the truth of us properly. You know, it has been an experience. You know, we have experienced trauma, we have experienced fracturing, we have experienced all the feelings and emotions that go along with that. And they're big and they're intense, and I'm not going to belittle any of that because I know all too well what this shit feels like. But we are much more than that. We are much, much more than that. And our truth is love, our truth is peace, our truth is unity. Our truth is that we are much, much, much bigger than all the things we are made to feel here while we are in incarnation. And I want to wind this up because Ricky's just made me a nice bowl full of raw food salad. And I'm bloody hungry. So, yeah, there you go. A bowl full of nice raw stuff. Because we are finding that helpful. We're finding it helpful to not eat heavy foods, to not eat foods that knock us out. We're finding that it helps us to maintain our truth a bit better. I've lost my track again, as I usually do. I think the main thing I keep getting is like, we're in this together. And I've read a lot of stuff recently about different people turning against others, like people following different spiritual paths that have bought into different particular beliefs to do with these things. And I'm feeling that it doesn't help to focus on the differences in details, because ultimately most of us are trying to come from our truth. Most of us are trying to do the best that we can. And we need to understand that the conflict is what the other energies want. They want us fighting against each other. They want us making life difficult for each other. They want us sabotaging each other. They want to create blocks. They want to create jealousies. They they work on us in every which way. And it doesn't matter, in a way, how wonderfully spiritual you believe you are, because if you are getting pulled into behaviours of conflict and division, there is still work to do. There is still gaps and holes where these energies are getting in and affecting. And, you know, I'm not through this journey. I definitely don't make this video with a I know better, I'm further along, I'm more in my path and stuff than anybody else. I do this video from the place of I love us all. I love everything, because that is the ultimate truth. We are all in this together. The dark ones are in this as well, but at the level we're working with, we just need to understand that there is infiltration that wants to create divisions all the time, and fighting against that infiltration doesn't help, but strengthening your truth and your love and your compassion does. I'm going to leave it there, because I can feel the possibility to branch out in all sorts of directions, and I'm not going to do that, because I need to eat, and centering and calming and knowing that we're all right is quite helpful as well. No matter how crazy these times are, the negative agendas want us in fear, they want us in conflict, they want division, and don't do it. It's as simple as that. Yeah. But being aware that this is being done is helpful, and knowing that ultimately all the other humans are your brothers and sisters, and yes, a lot of them are being very, very, very deeply used and can be used very badly.
I'm saying something about sacrifices, quick.
Oh, self-sacrificing.
Yeah, because that just came up.
Alright, okay. That's something else that we've seen a lot. There's been a lot of so-called virtue put with the idea of self-sacrificing. You know, the idea that we sacrifice ourselves, we sacrifice our needs to make other people happy, as if that is a virtue. And a lot of the time it can be very unhelpful, especially if it goes too deep. If it's something that doesn't really matter, if it's throwaway, then that's all right. But if it's like sacrificing your truth and your happiness for somebody else, then it often isn't helpful, because we're creating soul loss for ourselves when we do that. This can happen a lot within families. You know, there usually are ways around situations. You know, there are other pathways, and it can be sometimes very hard to think of what those other pathways are, because we can get so caught in just taking standard pathways. Like, for example, you know, like if you're a father and you're doing a job that you absolutely hate, but you feel like you've got to stay in that job because you've got a family to support and it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying you should just sod that off, but looking for different avenues where you can bring that provider role, if that is what you need